Greetings, everybody. Welcome to episode 143 of The Glow, coming at you on Facebook Live right now, 11:30 a.m. Eastern in the state of Pennsylvania today. My name is Brian Piergrossi, author of The Big Glow and The Wild and Now, life coach, retreat facilitator, online workshops and courses. Really great to be with you. Really great to have you here. Really enjoying what we've been doing here. Really enjoying the sense of community that's been opening, that's been arising between us. It's been really beautiful, really sweet to enjoy, and really fun. Fun being key. It's like this chance to, there's these amazing people that I don't often enough get a chance to speak to. A lot of them are close friends. One of them today, Val Tignini, who is be joining us just a moment and sharing about Kundalini awakening, amongst other things that may arise and come into being in our discussion. But it's just a really beautiful chance to have these conversations together and be in conversation together. So kind of the inspiration to the shift that's happened in the past month or so is I had this idea of doing a podcast and bringing it in together. Welcome, Cheryl. When you're entering, everyone, please say hello and share where you're from and hit the heart button or the wow button. It's good to have everybody coming into being here with us. Welcome, Vicky. So I had this vision of doing a podcast and bringing together guests that would be really interesting to talk with and connect with. And the idea was I was going to call it, what was I going to call it? Outlaws of Consciousness. Outlaws of Consciousness. What a great name. So what I did is I combined that idea with the Facebook Live series I've already been doing. And bringing on people who are outlaws of consciousness, essentially, to be a part of what we're sharing here together. And I would have these really great kind of just expansive, heart-opening, consciousness-opening, mind-expansive conversations with people, and a sense that I think a lot of people have of like, well, wouldn't it be great to be able to kind of like share this with people? I wish people could hear this conversation right now. This is such an amazing conversation. And so I started doing it and starting to just, get it out there. And what's really fun too, an element that is unique about this, at least as far as what I've seen, is that it's live. So there's a sense of being alive together and being present together in the same space that just brings this other level of excitement, this other level of just energy, a little of energy. So it goes out on iTunes. It goes out on SoundCloud. It goes out on YouTube. It goes out on a bunch of different places, Stitcher. But then we have it here live, so you can hear it recorded in the archive, but you can hear it live as well. So, hey, Val's here. So she'll get her on just a moment. I wanted to share a couple things about this weekend and beyond. So this weekend we're doing a retreat in Asheville, North Carolina. And we're going to make our way down there shortly for another beautiful road trip. I-81 South, beautiful drive through the mountains. If you haven't experienced it before, especially this time of year, it's really beautiful, springtime. And we may be able to squeeze like 1 or 2 people in for the retreat this weekend, the Big Glow Retreat, the 4 Levels of Love. Annie's here. She'll be sharing yoga. John Stringer, Kathy Stringer. Welcome, Zoe. Where are you from, Zoe? Will be joining us. So that's exciting. We have a retreat in Italy, which Val's done a retreat in Italy as well. I've done 2 retreats in Italy, so we can talk about that today. That's a 6-day retreat in June 23rd, 29th. And we just announced a retreat in Stockholm, Sweden, which we're really excited about, June 17th to the 18th. So there's some upcoming events. We also have a New Year's retreat we announced in Gainesville, Florida, and more things to be announced soon. So stay tuned for that. You can always join us tomorrow, every Wednesday, for the Secret Glow, private community, Facebook, where we get deeper and share some accountability stuff. Hey, Val, make sure your camera is on. I think it needs to be this way. What is it, vertical, like mine? I know that was a problem with the previous guest, Sean. So yeah, that's coming up, and that's exciting. And then some really great guests coming on here, which I'll share more about later in the week. I'll share more about some of the upcoming guests that are coming on and who they're going to be. Welcome, Phyllis. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in and being here. Val's here, so as soon as her camera's on, we're going to get her on and chat with her. One of the things that we got the invite, and did that work? No. Oh, great. Yeah, thanks for saying that, Vicky. One thing that you can do is you can share this. If you click the share button, you can have other people join the conversation, and that's a totally something that's easy to do. Just click the button, and people are here to join us. Hey, Val.
Sorry, I don't know how to get on here on Facebook. I know to do it on Instagram, but I think you had to send me the invite.
Yeah, well, glad you're here. Made it. Great to see you.
Is there a way to turn off my computer instead of my phone?
Sorry, what's that?
Does it have to be on the phone, or
I
could
don't
it be done on the
think so.
computer as
It
well?
could be on the computer. Yeah, I think either
Oh,
way
okay.
works.
Okay, because I have like 34% battery.
Oh, well, if it gets low, we'll just figure something out at that time.
Okay.
But yeah, it's good to see you in New
Good to see.
Jersey. Val's in New Jersey.
Yeah, yeah. This is really, we have the longest conversations. We lose track of time.
Yeah, so we decided to share those, share it with the world. Um, and anytime anybody wants to share a question or a comment, feel free to share anytime. You're a part of the conversation. We were talking about the weather and how the weather is kind of crazy, like sort of all over the world. Jennifer says, "Happy shot." How do you say this? Shiro.
Ron? Chiron?
Yeah.
What is that, Jen?
What is that, Jenny?
Hi, Jen. What is
What's a
that?
Chiron day? Chiron day. We'll find out. But we were talking about the weather and how the weather is like really unpredictable. It's like in the Northeast, it's like 85 or 90 on Sunday, and then it's like 35 on Monday. And
Yeah.
yeah, blizzards in mid-April.
And it's not just America, it's the whole world. Like we're all going through this chaotic weather.
Uh-huh.
So what did Jen say? By the time Chiron has finished its
Whoa.
journey in
She must
Aries,
have pasted that in. She couldn't have typed out all that fast.
we're all. You want to read it?
Super fast typer.
Yeah. I can't read it all right
Yeah,
now.
there's a lot there. It's a planet in horoscope. It's a planet in the horoscope.
Oh, and the zodiac.
In the
I think
zodiac.
zodiac.
Uh-huh. So happy Chiron Day.
Happy Chiron.
Yeah.
Yeah, so back to the weather. I think, everybody is fed up with this weather,
Mm-hmm.
especially the it's not even just like consistent. It's all over the place. It's manic.
Yeah.
It's like erratic. It feels like, we're trying to, especially here in the Northeast. I mean, you're now living in the Northeast too, but you don't know whether to take out your sleeve shirts and shorts or your sweater and snow boots. It's
Yeah.
not like it's complete opposite. Um, and I think, we were talking about this before that there's something happening on the planet where they say it's a pole shift, where our our cold weather places are becoming warmer and our warm weather places are becoming colder. And so I guess everything in between gets kind of like we get the mixed the mixed weather. Uh, but yeah, this happened like they say it was like happening like 800,000 years ago. Last
Mm.
time this happened.
Wow, that's a long time ago. Yeah, there's this
Yeah, so I guess
theory.
it's all time.
There's this theory because the Earth is getting warmer, generally speaking, every year for I don't know how long, 100 years or something like that. Definitely, average, generally speaking. But there's this theory that it's going to reverse itself, and we're going into actually an ice age.
That's
And you
right.
and you were kind of explaining it to me because I forgot. I remember hearing it one time, and I'm like, well, it makes sense that that's like possible. So
We
it's like,
are.
go ahead.
Yeah, we are. One time I went into this deep state, samadhi state, and I saw visions of the future. And I saw that I would be wearing long sleeve shirts during the summertime. Yeah. And how did I know it was summertime? Because we were saying it. We were saying like this,
Huh?
oh, today's a beautiful day. And we were wearing long sleeve shirts. So, and I was like, wow, it's cold. It's cold in the summer. And, nowhere
Maybe you envisioned
is it that cold, even in
2018.
Alaska.
Maybe you envisioned 2000.
What do I envision in
No,
2018?
maybe that's what you saw in your vision,
No.
2018. Maybe
Oh yeah, I know.
it's like,
No, it was actually it was more deeper in the future. It was like 2025-ish,
mm,
like that.
mm,
Not too far away.
mhm.
Not too far away.
So when you say a samadhi state, what is a samadhi state? What does that mean?
It just means that you go deep into a meditative state
Mm.
where you don't need to eat or some people don't even need to breathe. But I think I was breathing. And it's a meditative state where you don't open your eyes for hours. And it's just deep states of consciousness merging with, the universal consciousness.
Mm.
And then whatever comes through, comes through.
Yeah, it's interesting. People have this idea that when you're meditating, you shouldn't think, right? So that I understand that idea. But I think if you just get in a state of like, oh, I shouldn't think, don't have any thoughts are bad, stop thinking, don't think, don't think, don't think, you're actually missing a gigantic part of meditation. What happens for me is when I get really quiet, when my mind gets quiet, we can go into how, how do you get your mind quiet? That's obviously a really important question we can go into. But let's just say for some miracle, your mind does get quiet. So when it gets quiet, it's like all the silly, like anxious thoughts or the worrisome thoughts or the stuff that people have projected onto you or been conditioned onto you, all that like quiets down. And then you're able to like get a vision of something and you're like, oh, that's it. Like that's a clear, you get a clear sense of things that
Right.
come through. So those things are not from my perspective, they're not to be pushed down or pushed away. I honestly wish I had a notebook sometimes when I'm meditating because the stuff that comes
Mm-hmm.
through is just incredible. It's like we tap into this deeper collective consciousness.
Mm-hmm. And going back to, you know, how people think like I don't know how to meditate or it's hard for me to meditate because I have all these thoughts coming through. But that's part of the meditation. You see, you have to let the thoughts come through first because essentially you're letting the mind clear itself. So the thoughts have to come through. That's the first layer. Then once you sit there and you let the thoughts come through, even if it's like you say, "Oh, well, I'll be half an hour and I'll be thinking about all this stuff." That's fine. Let it be. But guess what? The more you go into it, the less stuff you'll be akin to think of. So you won't want to think of it anymore. It just naturally floats away.
It's
So
like,
it's like it's a practice.
yeah, it's like there's the examples people use, I use them. There's like watching like clouds passing through the blue sky is one example, or like a river stream. It's like being able to like notice the thoughts, but not to resist them. So
Yes,
people will get in this thing of like, it's easy to get in this space of like, this is a negative thought, I need to try to resist it, or this is a bad thought, I need to try to resist it. But if you can be in the space of just allowing the thought to pass without resisting it, because as we talked about and other people have heard this saying, the resistance creates persistence. What you resist persists and becomes stronger. So it's this interesting thing of like, if you have some thought that's like weird or funny, or it's worry or anxious, can you actually just observe it like a cloud passing without giving it any resistance?
that's right. Actually, funny that you mentioned that. I always tell people like many people think multiple thoughts at once, right? And it's anxiety that a lot of people have. So we should only be thinking one thought at a time. So for example, I tell people that your thoughts should run across your mind like a ticker tape. Do you know what ticker tape is? You know how like they have at the stock market the ticker
Yep,
tape
yep,
where they show all the stock numbers?
yep.
So essentially that's what your thoughts should look like. It should be one after another, not one at coming at you like all the time. And that's why people either get confused or have like they have forgetfulness or um, or they just, they're very nervous and anxious. So we need to streamline our thoughts and let the one thought come through one at a time. And I received that again through actually taking iboga. I don't know if you know what iboga is.
What is that?
It's a plant medicine.
How do you spell it?
It's a plant medicine. Iboga, and
Okay.
it's plant medicine from Africa. Supposedly,
Oh,
it comes from the tree of life, the tree,
I have heard of it
like
actually from
the
Africa.
tree of
Yeah,
life.
yeah. Boga.
Hmm. So it's the brother of ayahuasca.
Right.
So ayahuasca is the sister
Right.
of iboga, and it's very intense. But that I received that, through that. I received so much through that process, but that was one of them. But yeah, we should only be having one thought at a time. And then essentially this thought becomes empowered. Because if you have so many thoughts at the same time, you lose them.
Hmm.
You're overwhelmed by all these thoughts. But if you have the one thought, then it becomes empowered. And we have focus. And then essentially you give that thought power. So if you're thinking about, I want to be well, I want to be well, but if you're thinking about, I want to be well, and I have to do my taxes, and I have to do this, is today's tax day? If you're thinking about all these things, then they lose their power. So it's really good to just think about that one thing
And have
and give it
and
power.
having space around the thought too. So it's like, if there's like thought, 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 it's like there's no space to like realize who you really are, right? So you can have
That's
thought,
right. So then the ticker, that's right.
yeah, thought,
Yeah.
space, thought, space, thought, space.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And you know what? Even if you have more space than thoughts,
Yep.
people think if you're not thinking, you're not alive.
But
We could just stop thinking.
if you're not thinking, you're more alive. That's my perception. So that ties us into. It reminds me. I remember seeing this video of you, and it was from a long time ago. And it's probably at that time it was your most popular video. I don't know if it still is. Um, but you come on and you're like, "Hi everybody, like something happened to me last night. I just want to like talk about it. I had something. It's called like Kundalini or something." I just want to tell you. So it's really amazing video. If you haven't seen this, I thought it was really sweet. So you didn't have like any kind of spiritual background, or you hadn't like read any books, or you didn't have any kind of knowledge, and you went into like a seminar or
Nothing.
a workshop. Like tell us what happened.
Sure. December 12th, 2010, I went to a session that Abdi Electricité was holding. Alan Steinfeld he's a, spiritual guy that he organizes events in New York City. So I went, and it happened to be across the gym that I always used to go to in Soho, New York City. And it was in like a ballet studio. So I went because I knew it very well, and and the moment I was there, I felt different, but I didn't understand what was happening. He didn't even do anything yet, but I just felt like different. I'm like, okay, I feel weird, and I was very agitated and everything. But then when he started to play music and then go around touching people, I felt really different. He didn't even touch me yet. And now, mind you, I never meditated. I didn't know what a chakra was. I didn't know anything about this, let's call it the spiritual world. And the moment he touched my mom and my sister were there because I dragged them. I don't know if I dragged them. I think they wanted to come, but it was because of me that they came. And he touched my sister first, and she went down like really stiff. I don't know, I think she was a little scared. Then my mom went down, and then he came up to me. But at the time he came up to me, he didn't have to do anything. All he did was just blow on my face, and I was gone. And I could feel heat rising from the tip of my toes all the way up through my first chakra, and I was trembling. And I was having this conversation with myself, like, oh my God, what is happening to me? Like, what is that? And then I would be like, and then I would hear another voice saying, shh, it's your time. You're ready. Let's do this. Like, I'm just, changing the words a little bit, but essentially that's what it was. So I was having like this conversation with my mind versus my soul. And the soul was just like, no, no, this is it. You're ready. You're ready for this. And and then it was going through all my chakras. And I had experience in every chakra. Um, it was an hour and a half session. So, but I could have gone for hours. I was not done. I mean, by the end of the session, when I was trying to stand on my head. Mind you, this is a girl that used to drink cocktails to have a good time and to go in a meditative state. I had no idea what was happening to me. But at the end, I did. I mean, I didn't know what Kundalini was, but I knew I was like, my sister was like, what happened to you? You were hypnotized. And I was like, no, I experienced nirvana. This is what I told her. I experienced nirvana. Now, like as a kid, I always was very interested in I was very interested in Indian things. So I always used to I like the Indian culture, but I never went into the mystic or the spiritual side of it. So so I knew like a lot of the words, and a lot of the terms and things, but I didn't understand any of it. But as soon as I had this Kundalini awakening, it was like I already knew everything. I received like downloads of information or uploads. I don't know what it was, but essentially I just started remembering everything. Like information that I didn't even know where it came from. Like, how did I know that? And that's what Kundalini is. I think that's why so many people want to have Kundalini because it activates you to another level of consciousness. You start to get superpowers. um your mind is I say like you receive higher intelligence. I think because I mean I don't know for a fact, but I'm pretty sure that your brain starts to activate in different ways. um the our electrical system, the Kundalini affects your electrical system. It runs up and down your spine, and so all of your meridians, all of your electrical system is awakened. And so when you do that, of course, where does it go to? It goes to your brain because your brain holds on to all the electrical um, wires, if you will. So essentially, you become more intelligent, you can heal faster. It's like you become like superhuman. It's very interesting. And but it's a process. It's not easy. And you have to go it's could be grueling as well. Like I every single day Kundalini was acting up with me. From the moment that I had the Kundalini, I would literally be shaking, like having seizures in my anywhere, in my bed. I would go to work. I was working at Google at the time. I would go to work and they would have meetings and all I would hear is wah 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 wah. I'm like, what the hell's going on here? I was leaving my body, so I couldn't hear anything. So all these crazy things were happening to me. I was getting beings come visit me. I didn't know who they were. I'm like, who are, but then I did know who they were. It's like a remembrance. It was a remembrance process. But I was never scared. You see, that's the whole thing. I was never scared. And most people are scared of all this. They're scared of having seizures. They're scared of having beings come visit them. They're scared of their own power. So I was never scared. So that's what allowed everything to come through and just, but it's your fate, it's your destiny. I'm just awakening to what I was in a past life or a past life before. People was like, why can't I receive that? Why do you receive it? Why can't I? Well, first of all, it's all destined when it's supposed to happen. Like you had your moments where you just popped. Yeah? It
Yeah,
was
totally.
great. Sorry.
I think one thing that's difficult, I think one thing for people to realize is for many people, not everybody, but for many people, it happens right after your most difficult period. They say there's a saying like the dark night of the soul, right? So it's like, so that's, I think it's important for people who are listening to realize that if you feel like you're really going through a really difficult time or you're really like, so far off, oftentimes you're the people that are the closest. You're like right there on the edge, because the way I see that this works is we think that we're a person. Oh, we have an illusionary sense of a separate self. This is me. This is you. I'm in this little container. I'm in this little body. You're in that little body over there. You're in New Jersey. I'm in Pennsylvania. This person's there. So we have this, and then we feel like we feel so terrible. Why do we feel terrible? Because because it's not true. That's why we feel terrible. So because we're living something that's not true, we feel really terrible, and we're trying to control things. We're trying to make this effort to change things, but we can't do it because the person that's trying to do it doesn't actually really exist, right? So it's like this Kundalini awakening. The first thing that's really interesting about it is the story that you're telling is a story that's similar to almost every story I've heard, which is contrary to what people think. So the person, like in your case, didn't really have any prior knowledge or wasn't really trying to make a lot of effort. It's actually when you're totally relaxed and open that you realize who you really are. Why does it happen when you're totally relaxed and open? Because it is who you really are. So it's just like, oh, you're just realizing, oh, this is me. You have a chance to actually just see yourself and look at yourself without all this effort and struggle and trying to make things happen. So that's really fascinating. But then I also think that the one thing that is interesting is often people are in certain conditions. So it could be a retreat, it could be some kind of workshop. It's something where you feel supported, but it's also something when you're not trying to make it happen. You're not pushing, you're not making effort. That's
That's
ego,
right.
you know? And then the
That's
second
right.
the second component is after that, there's what I would call like the integration. And that's where like all these things can arise and it can feel difficult or challenging or trying to understand with your mind what happened, so that's a whole other phase after that's also like just really fascinating.
Yeah. So my life was not difficult. So
Hmm.
let me explain. What the period I was in, I had a TV show airing on TLC. I was engaged to a guy. If I had to write it on paper at the time, he would have been perfect for me. I was living in a luxurious building in New York City. I was making a lot of money. My health was perfect. Um, I don't know. I was just everything was just perfect. Perfect. But a week before I had Kundalini, I went into this states of like weird. I just I didn't understand what was going on. I started to get sick. Me, I just like had this constant cold that would not go away. Like my energy was really low. I broke up with my fiance. I moved out of my apartment. I was thinking of closing down my business, and I was totally depressed. It was only a week though.
Yeah.
1 week.
Hmm.
All this happened
Yeah.
in a week. And then I had a Kundalini awakening. But so essentially, I just kind of shut down my reality. I'm like, this is not good enough. Like, I'm still not happy.
Yeah.
My life is perfect. I'm still not happy.
Yeah. Yeah. That's an interesting
And then,
thing. Yes. What happened then?
actually, it happens to a lot of people. Look, Buddha, he had to leave his riches, his lifestyle to really get to know what is life really about.
Hmm.
I mean, he had to meditate on that, but I don't think he had Kundalini awakening. He didn't, but it was grace that gave it to me because God knew that I wasn't going to meditate for it.
Yeah.
So he's like, I'm just going to give it to her.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Lucky me.
too, I just wanted to put, and also, if anyone has any questions or comments at any time, feel free to type them in there, and we'll get to them. Thanks for being here. It's so much more fun with
Yes.
all of you here. Um, yeah, this sense of like everything, like there's the external world, and everything can seem perfect on the external world, you know, but
That's right.
the external world isn't where it's at. The internal world is the core. Like, in the internal world means realizing who you really are and living from that place. So it's just so fascinating how we put so much emphasis on these external things, which have their place, but it's not what's most important. It's not what's most important for fulfillment.
That's right. And it's funny because I, since I was a little girl, I always had these dreams and these goals, like I wanted to be an actress. I wanted to, live in New York City and do this and do that, and I got everything I ever want. I fulfilled every wish, and still I'm like, I'm not satisfied. What is it? And I was just in the biggest funk of my whole life, and and then Kundalini happened, and I knew why I wasn't satisfied because the material world doesn't give you happiness. Happiness is honestly, I don't even search for happiness anymore. The only thing that I want is peace. Because happiness is just the opposite of sadness. It's a volatile state of emotion. So peace is the still lake. That's all I want to be.
I think what you just said is really important, and I think that's something that I try to communicate as well. I intend to communicate as well. Is happiness is not where it's at. It's kind of like an ocean, and there's like this surface level, and the surface level, those emotions are always changing. Oh, I feel happy. Oh, I feel sad. I feel happy. I feel sad. It's like there's something that,
Mm-hmm.
like, if you're
Mm-hmm.
if you're just chasing these emotions all the time, you're never going to have any kind of sense of, first of all, freedom, peace, love,
Yes.
empowerment. But when you recognize the still point at the bottom of the ocean that doesn't move, that doesn't undulate up and down, then you can still be aware of the changing emotions, but it doesn't really matter what the emotional state is. It's something that's ever changing, but you recognize the essence of yourself, right, which is unchanging.
That's right. So essentially, people, like you said, are always chasing the happiness, but we don't need to chase the happiness. What's most important is just finding that inner peace. And Inner peace comes with a lot of things. You have to change the way you think. You have to perhaps change the way you eat, or your habits, or it could even be you're changing your environment. The point is that we must find that inner peace. We must find that peace within, peace without. And then everything starts to shift. Everything. You start to realize that you don't need as much as you thought you needed. People like get so obsessed with trying to chase a goal or something like this. That's another thing that's like, there's a lot of new agers, or let's call them coaches or whatever. They say like, you have to there's goals in your life that you have to reach. And I don't believe in that. I think that everything that you have is exactly what you need. And essentially, if you if you receive more, it's a gift. And so then you feel good about it. But you have to just keep working at things, but the goal is just to find the peace and be enjoying the space that you're in at the moment, because if you're constantly chasing something, you're never going to find that peace. It's like chasing the happiness. And so I always cringe every time I see goals, the word goals.
It's interesting because we live in a world of past, future, and present. It's kind of like the same thing with the ocean metaphor. It's like there's a sense of like, the waves on the top going up and down. Then at the bottom there's the stillness that's not affected by the waves. So it's like there's a sense, this mental sense of like future, past, present. Like in order to come together today, we had to plan it on the calendar. Okay, in the future, this future Tuesday, we're going to meet.
That's right.
So there's some sense of like future, there's some sense of past, and yet at the same time underneath this recognition that it's not real. Like, can you speak to that for a little bit? Like, it's like there is future, there is past. We're obviously dealing in it every day. But yet on another deeper level, we know that it's not all there is now.
That's right. Well, essentially, the idea of time is is really like an implementation of the ego acting out. So we're only in this reality of time because we have to quote unquote work, or we have to do things, yeah? But let's say if we were a squirrel, okay? A squirrel doesn't wake up in the morning and say, "Oh, it's time to do my laps. Time to play with my friends. Time to collect those acorns." No. All it does, it has an instincts, and it follows those instincts, like an intuition. Let's call it that. Okay? They have like these intuitions. They follow magnetic field. That's you there?
Yep, I'm
It's
here.
frozen for you.
I'm here. Keep going.
I wonder if I'm frozen.
No, you're not frozen. You're moving. Or are you frozen? Maybe you are frozen. Now you're frozen. But you're talking about these fields that arise. So there's a sense of time and the future and past, and yet there's a sense of the now. That's ever present. That's here. So I just find that really fascinating in the sense of a goal potentially, for the future or a moment in the future. Um, if you're really grounded in the present, if you're grounded in the present moment, if you're grounded in the sense of the journey itself, the fulfillment is in the journey itself, not in a future endpoint. So, having a sense of goals, having a sense of this is what I want to accomplish today, and yet I'm deeply fully engaged in the process itself and the journey itself and the movement itself, and that's totally changes the way you approach your day, the way you approach your week, and the level of fulfillment that comes into being. And part of that is embracing the challenges. Part of that is it's embracing that the journey could be challenging, it could be difficult, it could be easy, it could be smooth. Um, in my case, I've been I've been embracing and enjoying things that are challenging, things that are difficult, in a way that I hadn't necessarily in the past. So there's a sense of it's kind of like if you play a game, like let's say it's like you're playing like let's say basketball. I've been watching basketball lately. So if I'm playing basketball against a 3-year-old, I'll enjoy it much more if I'm playing basketball against someone that's kind of the same similar skill level to me than if I'm playing against someone who's 3. It's not really that as fun. So I think if we embrace the challenges that life brings, and the challenge is here to evolve our consciousness, to evolve and grow and expand in our consciousness, then um, it's it brings another level of something activates inside us that doesn't arise if we're in a sense of, oh, this shouldn't be happening, this is bad, this is wrong, this isn't the way it's supposed to be, everything should go like this, everything should always be easy, everything should always be smooth. So just been enjoying embracing that way of looking at things. And I think it's like another level of maturity, that arises when you there's one of the sayings you'll hear a lot when you get into non-duality circles is accept what is, be with what is, accept what is and be with what is. And as you go deeper and deeper into that question, it's such a simple statement, but as you go deeper and deeper into that statement, you notice the areas, and they can be so subtle, the areas where you feel like something should not be the way it is, the way you feel like something should be different than it is. Why does it got to be so difficult? Why does it have to be so hard? Why does it have to be so challenging? Why does everything have to be so, it's like there's this thing inside us that thinks things should be easy, right? But things should be as they are. Things should be as they are. They're here as they are, and they should be as they are. And so the deeper we can embrace what's here as it's here, then we go deeper in this thing of being with what is, and we go deeper into the sense of peace and freedom, love and empowerment that Val was talking about, beyond the temporary passing conditions, that arise and fall, and that come and go, and that appear and disappear. Suffer it to be so now. Jesus. Suffer it to be so now. Elizabeth's saying why. What are you saying why to? And Val, I'm trying to connect you back on. Looks like your camera's not available at the moment. So it's really a way of being in a space where your mind is quiet. Quiet, not to say that nothing's happening. Quiet to say that the resistance is not there. That there's a sense of says your camera's not on, Val. It says can't bring Valerie on camera. So as soon as your camera comes back on, I'll have you back on. Yeah, the mind quiets, and there's this sense of thought arising from space, as we talked about earlier, and not having a sense of resistance around it. Not having a sense of resistance around it means there's a sense of being with what is without the sense of something being weighed down or being the heaviness around it. So it's like it's kind of the opposite of the way we tend to think of it as, oh, if I have more knowledge, if I accumulate more information, if I attach myself to more ideas and information, then I'll have a better sense of how to move in the world in a more fluid, effective, efficient way. But it's actually the opposite. It's actually like a process of unknowing, a process of innocence consciousness. And as you come into this process of innocence consciousness, And it really is the creative energy, like an artist, so like people like Robin or painters who are with us right now, there's a sense of like just being present where there's a sense of what wants to move next, moving through you in the moment. What wants to move next, moving through you in the moment right now, and then offering that to the world, being present in the world. Let me read some of the comments here. I am painting and my mom is sculpting while we are listening, and we are in the zone, not wanting the art to be done, just enjoying the process, and listening to you guys is even sweeter. That's awesome, Robin. I think that that the way I like to translate that um, is to live as a life artist. So the way we can paint, the way we can move, the way we can um, project art in the world, whether it's painting or photography or film or etc., is the way we can live our lives, of being a life artist. So having that creative sense of being in the flow, being in the zone, and sharing ourselves in that way. Let's see if I can bring Val on. Val, it says your camera's not on. I don't see it. There's not a camera to invite you. So I'm not sure why that's the case, but as soon as your camera is there, then I'll have you back on. Elizabeth says, I just happened to have a minute to catch you. I miss these times together. I am asking why it has to be so hard. Okay, I'll get to that in just a second. And he says, I like to say to myself, now it's like this. Keeps me present and reaching for the next moment or holding on too tightly to the one before. Yeah, absolutely. Elizabeth says, moving somewhere but have no clue where. So why does it have to be so hard? I think it's a really interesting question. And there's a sense of, okay, let's see if we can get Val back on. Yeah, you're back. Hi.
I don't know what happened.
Here we are in this
Sorry
moment.
about that. In this
Yeah.
moment. So I don't know where that cut off. I was like, I just saw your frozen face. I'm like, oh no, where did I lose
Uh-huh.
him?
Yeah, I don't know. We're just talking about goals and future and past and appreciating the journey. And
Hi.
Elizabeth's asking why it has to be so hard. So it's getting into that. And yeah,
What? Why does what have to be so
life.
hard?
Yeah.
Life? Because we're here to learn
Yes, that's what
lessons.
I was saying. Exactly. So like if you can
Yeah.
embrace it as if you embrace the challenge instead of resisting like, oh, it shouldn't be this way. Especially if you're in a big transition. I happen to know Elizabeth a little bit, and she's in a major transition. A lot of people can relate to. She was in a marriage for a long time and is transitioning into some things that are, trying to make a new life and a new start for herself. So these things are challenging. I think that's the interesting thing is like spiritual awakening for me. I find that there's this sense of like it's interesting how do you speak about it? The wording is challenging, but in a way it's like in a way, and it's because there's two things at the same time. In a way, it's like just the infinite, but in another sense, I actually feel like more human now than ever. It's like more connected to what's happening in the world, more connected to people, more present you know so if you can like embrace the challenge as you say and like embrace the lessons and okay, we're here to evolve in our consciousness, we're here to evolve and awaken in our consciousness. It just gives a different feel to life.
Yeah, I think people make them challenging. The challenge really is all in your head. So it's a challenge, yes, when someone's sick and you see them dying, and all you could think of is how you could help them and how you can make them better. And then, there are things that happen in our lives that could be traumatic and affect your well-being, your happiness, your peace, your balance, emotional balance. Um, but you have to always look at everything as God's will,
Totally.
because otherwise it wouldn't have happened. So when there's this surrender of God's will, then we can start to kind of sit back a little bit, because we're always trying to control everything. Our egos always want to try to control everything. But the thing is that some things we cannot control. If somebody is going to die, then they're going to die. That's their timing. That's it.
Yeah,
Am I
you're
with
here.
you? I don't know if I can. Okay. But there's some things that you can co-create or design or be part of that manifestation, clearance, healing, or whatever. And then that empowers you, and you can shift and change the situation at will. And that's actually a basically a transmuting or transgressing the experience, and potentially even transmuting the karma that's with it.
That's beautiful.
But some things, if it's happening outside of you, if you're not, if it's something that someone else is dealing with, that's their own karma. You cannot control that. But if something that's happening to you, then you have some power in that. But you have to bring in levels of higher consciousness into it. Okay, what is it? Why am I holding on to, let's say, cancer? Because I know a lot of people who are dealing with that. Why am I holding on to cancer? Am I angry? Is it something with some past life or genetic thing that I have to transcend? Is it, it's always an emotion or something that we're doing or eating or in a certain environment. There's always something to do. But you have to bring that consciousness there. You can, oh, let's just go to the doctor and let them heal me, or I give up, or you have to be proactive and bring that levels of higher consciousness. Well, I'm glad you appreciate that, Elizabeth. I see your comments.
So back to your story. So you had this Kundalini awakening. You're kind of like integrating it, and then how do you start to share yourself? How do you start? So at some point you start to share this. So how does that happen?
Right after I had Kundalini awakening, I got pregnant. And so I was, just being pregnant. And then I was a mom. And then one day, I went back to a Abdi session. And during that session, I heard a voice. It's time for you to heal now. Those are the quote unquote the voice that I heard. And I was hearing voices a lot. Like I say, it's God's voice. And I was like, whoa, my ego needs to needs to calm down. Because I understood that I had to get up and heal the people in the room, just like he was. And then not even like 60 seconds later, Abdi comes up to me and goes, get up and heal people. So I was like, oh, okay. And so from then, I just felt like this energy bubbling up inside of me, like all the time. Like whenever I had to do something, it just would bubble up. I had no control over it. It was never coming from my head. It was always like just an energy that was just wanting to be expressed and come out. And then the energy started telling me things. Okay, you need to make a session. And I remember the first session I had was in October of 2014. And I was like, and so God was telling me, you need to do a session on this date. And then it was one thing of, you need to do a retreat in the Catskill Mountains. You need to do a retreat in Italy. It was just kept going like this. And so I don't do anything that comes from my ego. It's just a voice or spirit source talking to me. And anytime I do something that comes from my ego, essentially whatever that was planned gets canceled. So I know not to bother with my head. So it's just, it's pushing, it's a push. And a lot of people think that, oh, how could she be so public and then, be so connected to source, but, it seems so like you just be to be such a public person. Yeah. It's just the push. I'm a vehicle. I'm God's tool, if you will. I'm just doing the service. I don't live a lavish lifestyle. And just like many healers, I live very modestly. But the thing is, I'm still satisfied. I don't need more than what I have.
Beautiful.
I used to have all these beautiful clothes and all kinds of, handbags and shoes. I don't care. I wear the same thing almost every day. I don't even care. I really don't. I mean, I think I wore this shirt like 3 times this week. I don't care. It doesn't matter. For me, all that matters is that I'm happy, I have my peace, and I have my health. And then, of course, everybody else around me as well. I care about them as well. But we have to, you know, the whole thing about being selfish is really like a ridiculous word because yes, if you're selfish in the way of the ego, the way the ego expresses it, yes, then it's terrible. But if you're selfish that you're taking care of yourself and your own happiness, your own peace, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, because I totally agree. Because as you get into this deeper level of awakening, this, people call oneness, right? It's like myself is yourself. So if I'm taking care of myself, by the way,
Mhm.
I know I'm really dark in the screen. I don't know quite what happened, but I'm still here. For those that are watching. Um, so yeah, you have a sense of taking care of yourself is the same as taking care of, of someone else, right? It's like this divide between like, oh, me or someone else, me or someone else. It's like, well, someone else is you. You are
You're
someone
right.
else. So take care of yourself. If you take
That's
care of
right.
yourself, you're taking care of everyone.
Yeah.
Like they when they
And you know what?
it's like when they go on the
Yeah.
airplane, it's like they tell the mother to put the mask on herself first, right? Take care of
Mhm.
herself.
That's right. That's right. And as we go deeper and deeper into the spiritual awakening or ascension, we start to realize that we have to take care of ourselves because mentally, physically, emotionally, and only because we are chosen, if you will, to be an example to those around us. And, we're going to be the example. So, how people start to eat, how people start to use money, how people start to speak and interact with others. So, we're going to be that example. And so, therefore, we're always in volatile states, especially going through ascension symptoms. I'm sure so many people can relate to this. And we're constantly dealing with all kinds of emotions and, of course, health issues and all kinds of things because we're experimenting. We're totally experimenting on how to eat and how to deal with new conscious relationships and how to deal with, whatever's happening energetically. We're like guinea pigs for this new era of spiritual age. So we have to take care of ourselves.
Beautifully, yeah, totally agree. And I love this movement of the integration of spirit with body, spirit, mind, body, spirit as one, this holistic approach to living. So I think that's something that, you and I are both represent is a sense of like, yeah, we're spirit, but also we're manifesting a spirit in the physical form. So taking care of the vehicle, taking care of the, nutrition and exercise and meditation and yoga and all these things, like there, it's like it's almost like a way to care for our vehicle is like almost like a way to care for something that God created, right? Like the body's a temple.
That's right.
Yeah.
Temple, isn't it? Temple. And what about the other thing we were talking about when we were in Cranford? We were talking about community, building the community,
Yeah. Yeah, it's huge.
and how that, yeah, that's really big, and how so many people are wanting to be around like-minded, like vibration people.
Mhm.
and makes it easier for us, especially financially, and especially people with children. Like they always say, it takes a village to raise a child. And I'm a single mom, so I can totally relate to that. That that I actually need a quote unquote village to help raise my daughter, because we all need to be doing our work as well as being, a mother or father or a sister or brother. We also need to be doing our service as well.
Yeah, we're
And
if you know look at us, we're tribal people. We're meant to live in community. We're not meant to be isolated. Even the nuclear family, in my opinion, is not enough. It's like there's a sense of like needing to be in groups of people and community of people. Children need that,
yes,
adults need that. It's the way we're mammals, you know, and it's the way that we're here to live, and there's a sense of belonging, there's a sense of being able to contribute. That's like the highest level of fulfillment for a human being. When I really looked into it deeply, like what is the highest level of fulfillment? So we feel like we're contributing something. If we don't feel like we're contributing something, it doesn't have to be much. It could be making a meal for somebody. It could be, listening to somebody that wants to hear
exactly.
what you have to, that's listening to somebody that has something they need to say, to speak to. It doesn't have to be like, oh, I'm gonna like, take us to Mars or something. It can be really simple things, but if you feel like you're making a contribution, there's a sense of fulfillment. Like I get a lot of fulfillment out of this because it feels like I'm making a contribution, and I know you feel the same way. And I think I
I
think that
do. I have to get my charger
your charger, yes. Um, why don't you tell us
because
what
my phone's about to
tell us
die.
what you're doing these days that feels like you're making a contribution. You have the YouTube series
Yeah.
that you're doing. Tell
So
us
how
what
I'm
you're
making
doing.
Yeah, definitely. So the biggest contribution I'm making right now is um is doing this show called In the Flow. And this show is basically about, it's an original drama, um, based on a woman who has a Kundalini awakening, and she goes through this process, through meeting all these different healers. And I think a lot of people can relate to this. And she happens to have an illness. She has cancer, and that's why she starts to see all these healers. But through this healing, through visiting all these healers, she has a Kundalini awakening. So the reason why we're doing this is to elevate healers around the world, is to really bring, healers, light workers, people like you and me, to give them that respect and show the world that, that alternative holistic healing is, um, just as good, if not better, than going to see a doctor. And that living a spiritual life doesn't mean to, do prayers every day, but to be conscious and present. Because this woman, who I play, her name is Chiara Tomiso. She's living on top of the world, but yet she's getting sick, and her life is deteriorating. And so she starts to become more conscious, and she starts to become more present, and she just starts to do these small shifts in her life. And then, of course, seeing healers as well, people that can help her, motivate her. She has a, friend that kind of, who's played by Alan Steinfeld. He kind of pushes her and shows her, you're not connecting to your true self. And it's really interesting, and it's a very new paradigm, of way of doing a film series, because we're going to have a healing in each episode. And we basically, invite actors that are real healers. So every episode there's an actual transmission of healing in that process of watching. So it's really beautiful, and I'm really excited for the people, to watch this. I hope it hits mass, because that's the goal, is to really show the sleeping ones that, um, that healing is not so taboo. It's not a new age thing. It's actually a now age thing. I like to call it the now
I,
age.
I, I totally, I have the same now age. Absolutely. Yes. Yes to that.
You know? they always make, fun of these ideas. Oh, that is so new age or whatever. But it's funny because the new age is really ancient age. And really, we're not even tapping into ancient age. We're really tapping into right now. And so, in the flow is going to be something that is going to shift how film series are being made, and how the stories that are aligned with it. It's just going to be totally, it's going to blow people out of the water. They're going to be like, what is this? So I'm excited for it. We're gonna have like crystal bowl healer in the first episode. You literally could feel the energy coming through the screen. It's like you're having your own healing. And then, Kiara, who I play, I go through this Kundalini awakening, and people tell me when they've seen the screening of it, they said that they could feel the energy coming through my Kundalini activation. So it's going to be interesting.
Awesome. Is there like a channel, like a link for a channel people can watch it?
Yeah. So there's a website. It's intheflowstories.com.
Intheflowstories.com.
And yeah. So so Richard Burns and I have been creating this for 2 years, and we basically are at the finish line of a 1 hour episode, which is basically the length of a feature
True,
length
yeah.
film. But it's been purely like hard work, passion, and with our own funds and our own, we haven't we had some contributors, which we're very grateful to, but it's only a fraction of what we contributed ourselves. But we're so grateful for any donation or anyone that helps out with the process. So, um, it's been a labor of love. Let's put it that way.
That's awesome. That's yeah, I love hearing how it's like you're kind of on this path of just, the kind of everyday, average person, and you have this awakening to your true essence, Kundalini awakening, and then now bring it back where you're sharing through a series, an episode
Yeah.
that shows from having Kundalini, you're giving that to other people,
Yeah.
that kind of full circle. I really love seeing that.
Brian, I told you I was an
Yeah.
actress. I'm a SAG actress. So I'm in the union. People's like I'm an actress, but I'm officially an actress where I get paid for it. But essentially, I thought I would never act again.
Yep.
After Kundalini, I said, that's done. I'm done with that because I can never deal with the industry. It's just too dark, too controlled and
Ego.
and contrived.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. But look, I'm doing it on my own, and that is like the best way for me to express myself and whatever needs the story that needs to come through to help people. Because that's all I ever want to do is help
Yep.
people.
Yeah.
That's all I want to do.
Yeah. Hey, really, one last thing, to kind of subject shift, but you were telling me about dry fasting, and I was like so fascinated by it. And I asked you, what is it? What is it? And you like sent me this whole like amazing thing, and I'm like, did you write that? And you're like, what kind of? I kind of like channeled it. So, just like, what is dry fasting? Tell us about
Well,
it. And you've been experimenting with it as well.
yeah, so actually, dry fasting, the Jewish community has been doing it for a long time.
Hmm.
So it's been happening, for over 2,000 years. And they do it, I think, like once or twice a year. But essentially, it's to your body, when it eats, it absorbs the nutrients, the water, and whatever else into the cells, and the cells take on this living organism, if you will, and create and the cells start to shift and change through what you eat. But when you dry fast, the cells have nothing to take from whatever you're eating, and so the cells start to depend on their own selves. And your body also does the same thing. So the body depends on its own water, its own nutrients. And so what it does is it shifts and changes those the water and the cellular structure of your body into a survival mode. So the 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 basically it's a purification process. It doesn't take on from anything outside the body, and so it releases the toxins that doesn't need and restores the original water or nutrients or whatever it is, the protein that you have in the body, and purifies that because it says, okay, well, I have to generate something here, so I'm gonna just regenerate whatever I have and make it good for whatever I need to do. You know, it goes into survival mode.
Hmm.
So it's safe to say to do a dry fast for 3 days. I wouldn't go up beyond that because some people have, you know, I don't know what their physical or their health looks like, but to say safely dry fast for
And
three
probably
days.
start,
And if you
I would say
really
probably start smaller than that too to start with and work your way towards that would be that.
up, yes. So exactly, that would say that's the limit. But I did it for 1 day, and then I went off of it for another day, and then I went back to it for 1 day. But I don't have an issue with it because you see, also when we do this, we are activating our internal prana. Okay, so prana, our internal energy. So essentially, we're allowing for the body to become solar, self
Yeah.
energetic. Okay, so people think, oh, if I don't eat, I feel like I'm gonna faint. It's not true. It's only because your emotions or um, you know,
It's like an addiction.
your programming. Yeah, it's an addiction. It's like but your body's programmed
Yeah.
to eat. It doesn't need to eat. It's programmed to eat. So you're basically shutting down the program.
Reconditioning yourself.
And then as soon as you take the first bite of food, you restart the program again.
It's really fast.
But
Yeah, nutrition in general is just such a
yeah,
fascinating subject. Some of the thoughts is something that like I've been diving into, and I know you've been diving into, and I just saw some posts that you're doing some dry fasting in the past like month or so, and you're doing it for a day here and two there, and just the clarity that you felt, and to answer Annie's question, yes, it means not drinking water, not putting anything inside your
oh yeah,
body. So so that's yeah,
not even brushing your
not even
teeth.
brushing your teeth. Oh, so fun.
No, or shower,
Or
or
a shower,
shower.
even better. Love it.
Yeah, because your skin absorbs water.
So yeah, so
Mm,
no water intake at all. That's so fascinating. Well, I might have to try it and let everyone
it
know
is.
like what happens. And if I don't
I think
and
you'll
if
do
I don't
great.
appear in the next episode, that means it didn't go well.
That's just funny.
I,
That's just funny. You'll
I'm
be
just kidding.
fine. You're gonna feel fantastic, actually.
Yeah.
You know, when I fast, my energy level just booms. That's why I actually eat. I eat to ground because if I don't eat, oh my gosh, I'm just like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's just out of
Yeah.
control.
Well, Val, thanks so much for
But
being
that's you.
here. It's so awesome
Thank
having you here.
you. I love talking to you,
Love talking
Brian.
to you too. Love, thanks to everyone else for being here. Valsecrets.com. You can check that
Yeah,
out
thanks, you guys.
on the link below and check out. Maybe you could put in the link for the YouTube too. Just put it in as a comment.
Sure.
Yep. And
Yep, we'll do it.
someone has a comment. Someone has a question here. Okay, one last question if you want to answer it. Awakening of
Okay,
Kundalini.
what is
How has
it?
it changed your worldview? How has your perception changed? From Seema Hasbir.
Oh my gosh, that's a book.
Maybe in like
Oh wait,
a
I
minute
read
or
it.
two.
Uh, Everything changed. Literally everything. I realized that again, the material world was just pure, you know, satisfaction of the ego, and I realized that love is the answer to all. That we should all be I realized that we're all one, and no one is actually is is separate from me, and that it's all an illusion. That this everything that we are living in is a is created through our own consciousness, and that we have a lot to learn while we're here.
Beautiful, beautiful way to close out. Thank you, Val.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you,
Thanks,
everyone.
everybody. Thank you all for being here. Episode 143 in the so-called books. It's been really fun. Check out the links at the bottom to plug in deeper. Love and appreciate y'all so much. See you next week. Same time. You can check out the replay on YouTube, on SoundCloud, on iTunes, and other places online. See ya.